This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. I didn't realize today was a holiday, so I booked a show, and then I called our guest today, and he was gracious enough on his day off. I don't know if professional anglers really look at days the same way that the average 9-to-5ers do, because I know a lot of guys after the season's over, they check out. I said this before, either celebrating a good season or never wanting to see a rod and reel again. I guess there's a group that are motivated. There were close calls there that probably want to get right back on the water. But today's guest left one lake to go to another lake because he lives on that lake, and it's in the background, and it's none other than my good friend, Darold Gleason. Thanks for jumping on BTL this morning, Darold. Like I said, I did not realize, first of all, I didn't realize it was your wife's 40th birthday yesterday, right?
Saturday evening, yeah.
Saturday, so you probably had a weekend of festivities. I also know that you're big on golfing, the golf cart, the lake life type of thing. So this is like a big lake life weekend. So I appreciate you taking Monday morning to jump on BTL.
No, it's fine. Love always coming here, dude. Appreciate you having me on. Most of Louisiana's in mourning today after last night. The football game didn't go our way, so we're trying to struggle through this.
I watched it. Are you a big college football guy?
Oh yeah, love LSU, man. Even when we do bad, I'm not one of the guys. Like we have a lot of Facebook coaches that immediately like fire everybody. That quarterback's terrible. I stay on the bandwagon, dude. They played a really good team first weekend, which a lot of teams don't do, and kind of like my career, like it was like they were like right there, and then it just kind of took a nosedive, dude, and it went ugly for a while. So yeah. Fun weekend here at the house. I threw a monster surprise party for my wife's 40th. Somehow we surprised her. That went over really well. And, it was really cool to, especially after being gone all year, no matter how our results are, it's always fun to come home and get to be like in the space of all those people that have, followed us, kept up with us and all that stuff. So good weekend.
I think it's underrated. You don't really appreciate waking up like at your house and just doing normal things when you've been traveling for so long. I get a little bit of taste of it on the opens, and I've traveled roughly 150, 200 days a year for the past 15 years. But you really appreciate those mornings at home where you just get up, everything's kind of mellow. You don't have anything like immediately on your mind that you have to get ready for, and you're just chilling.
Yeah, it's you appreciate it more, especially as you get older too. Like we were gone for 2 months up north. Since we traveled the RV, we just stayed on the road, and I used that time to try to get better at smallmouth fishing, which didn't work out. But
you've mentioned that twice already. We are going to dive into that.
I know we are. Yeah, you said some guys like don't want to touch a rod. I parked my boat in the garage when I got home the other day. Normally, I'm a dude that comes home and immediately has guide trips or sponsor obligations. I'm right back at it. But we're taking 3 or 4 days apart, me and the boat. But I'm gonna start probably tomorrow morning or the next day, getting ready for Lake of the Ozarks, right back on the saddle.
And just what you want to do is talk about it for an hour with me on your decompressing days. It's all good. Yeah,
no,
we do have.
I'm not talking to many people at all, but when you ask me to come on, I'm like, I got to do it at some point. We just got to talk about it. So.
I hear. Well, you're on every single show, so with our little Pro Guide commercial.
Oh yeah.
That we made. There is an open stretch coming up. Watts Bar. I leave this Friday for Watts Bar in Tennessee, and then Lake of the Ozarks, and then straight from Lake of the Ozarks I'm going to drive. I need to get some logistics figured out. I need to book a flight because I'm driving straight from Lake of the Ozarks down to Florida, and like I said, I need to get some stuff figured out of where I'm leaving my boat and stuff, because then I'm flying from Florida to Minnesota for the rescheduled St. Jude Dick Hiley Bass Classic out of Wabasha, which apparently, from what I've heard, is going to be like giant schools of smallmouth smashing spooks, and then every once in a while it'll be a 4 or 5 pound largemouth. This is what I've been told from Adam Bartuzak, who I have to call back. He's called me like 4 times. I haven't called him back.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
And then I fly back. So that's on the 6th and 7th. And then I fly back immediately to Florida and then compete in the final open. And then I do the decompression thing. I'm going to the Zach Bryan concert on the 20th down at Texas Motor
That's going to be that's a wild stretch for you guys. It's similar to like what we did up north, where it's like we had St. Clair and then like 2 weeks off, and then the last 2, boom, boom, boom. And it's like in a glimpse, you'll be in decompression mode, and it'll go by fast. Yeah,
it's amazing how fast the road trips go. And it's you. I mean, I did that in the opens, but I haven't had the back-to-back. But the elites, the one thing is crazy because you guys, like I said, we'll get into this. You're fighting for your lives. This is what you're doing full time. You're fishing, but it always seems like you talk for 8 months about the season getting ready. Then a quarter of the season is over in 2 weeks in Florida. And then a quarter of the season is over in 2 weeks up north. And then there's some tournaments in between, but half of your season is really based around the start and the finish in back-to-back weeks. And that I think is really hard for people to comprehend how important and how much goes down in 13 days.
Yeah, it does. It happens in a hurry, and especially them last 2 this year really happened fast because we had a day postponed at Champlain due to wind. And so when the event was over, like because of that, going into St. Lawrence, they cut a practice day so they could keep the event on schedule. So it was just that whole deal, man, like just a whirlwind, like went by really, really, really fast, which can be to your advantage if you're fishing good. Like there's going to be some dudes outside the top 10 in the opens points, do Royal at Watts Bar and use that momentum in the next one, and going into the last one, they're gonna rise from the ashes and have a shot to qualify. So it's everyone knows it's a momentum sport. So like when you have those crammed in there tight and you get it going in your favor, it can go good in a hurry.
You mentioned the momentum, and it's weird to talk about that because obviously if you're a company and you sell baits or whatever, you don't want to talk a lot about like skill and momentum. You want your bait to be the reason why guys are catching fish and vice versa and all that. But like you talk to the guys, I always say you look at like KVD's motto, it's all about the attitude. Iconelli's never give up. Like all the top guys are mental, but it's so hard to figure out this momentum deal because I think we've all tasted it a little bit. Like you've tasted it. You had that incredible run on the opens where you won and made Bassmaster Classics and things like that. But it's so freaking fickle. Do you guys talk about that on the road at all? You can sense when someone has momentum. Like I jumped in the boat with my buddy Austin last month and I was like, dude, this guy, like we lost like a 5-pounder on a Thursday night. And he was like, oh, damn, we got a bite. It doesn't matter. We'll catch him. We'll figure it out. I'm like, no, dude, like that was big. He's like, no, we're good. We're good. We're good. It'll happen. And like, it's like, dude, you can't manufacture momentum. Like you can't force it. You can't teach it. It's weird how it just happens.
No. And that's just part of that's my appreciation for what I call the 1%ers, your Paliniks and guys like that like, it's amazing how they fight through that. Cause so much of our sport is mental, just your mental attitude, your mental preparation, saying stuff like that, losing a big smallmouth and immediately like, no big deal. I'll just go to the next one. Like so much of that is, will affect your results in this game just in ways you would just never imagine. So a lot of the guys don't talk about it. No. But like I don't talk to a ton of the guys on tour either. Since I travel with my wife, it's kind of me and her. I think about that stuff sometimes for sure. But I know a lot of guys just kind of roll with things or whatever, but that just gives me a better appreciation for those dudes that are like, they can take something that's a little negative and spin it in a hurry or just forget about it, like rolls off their shoulders. But I think even them, in their alone time, their quiet time, they think about it. It's a major part of it, dude. You think about it too in the opens. It's I don't even know the percentage, but it is a ton of what we do is between our ears and what's going on up there.
I know we've had, Matt Steffen on and his Katie Gruber, his mental coach. He just made the BPT this year. Creeds awesome talked about it in the past, but I still think that's obviously with what Clun's talked about, but I still think that mental aspect is massively underdeveloped in the professional fishing realm as far as actually seeking out and developing like you said, in between the ears. Like, we all deal with it. You guys all deal with it on a completely different level, differently than the average angler does, obviously. But still, I mean, there's not many Elite Series guys that are doing intense, specific, intentional mental training during the season and during the off season. And I think that would help the vast majority of anglers.
I could see that, because it's this can be a lonely sport, especially if it's not going great for you, whatever. It can be lonely. A lot of time out there in the boat by yourself, and it's you in your head, right? So I could see where some stuff like that would help some guys. It may not help everybody though. So, but that's the other part too. I think a lot of the guys, you've done a lot of shows on this stuff, but like, your margins in this sport for success and failure are so small. Your margins for making money in this sport are incredibly small. So a lot of the guys, they're not going to hire someone to help them with their mental stuff. They can't afford to. A lot of them's just trying to pay bills at home. Like, it's amazing, out of the 100 and something elite guys that fish this year, like, truly how many of them earn a good living. Like, people would be shocked. It's a tough road for the guys. We do it. I can tell you, for me, it's more about the passion of it. I probably made more money at home when I was guiding fishing regionally than I did in my, so far in my pro career. But obviously, when you're passionate about it, you don't worry about that. But yeah, so I mean, I think some of that guys look at it as like an extra expense. Some guys are probably scared to let somebody inside their head because we're all like, well, I mean, dude, like, we're just wired weird, different. This is such a weird sport with all the travel, time, expense, and like things of our choosing. I have to say that all the time to people, like, when things didn't end up well for me at the end of the year, I had some buddies that are like, sorry, man, I hate that for, like, don't feel sorry, dude. I fought for this my whole life. I chose this, which makes me a little bit loco, a little crazy. I get it. But when it's something you want, I mean, crap, dude, you just got to move on. It is what it is. But yeah, I could definitely see where that helps a lot. Or could help some guys, So it was really cool, by the way, to see Stefan make BPT. Like,
yeah.
He's a dude that's been around a long time and like kills it. Not enough. I don't think not enough of the industry knows who he is, and he kills it for sponsors. Does well on the water. Like,
YouTube.
I like,
good person.
Yeah.
You want to know something crazy about his year? I don't know if he said it or not. I talked to him quite a bit.
Yeah.
3rd in the Angler of the Year on the Invitationals. 3. That's how many fish he caught off forward-facing sonar this year. 3.
So you're saying that you can catch them without using forward?
Oh, I'm not. I don't. Unless you have a burning desire to tackle that.
Nope.
I don't have a burning. We had to go back and listen to the Zaldane interview that I did.
Yeah.
We dove
into
that deep.
On that is, in my time fishing professionally, I saw Brian Latimer made a post similar to this. What I'm gonna say. The majority of professional bass fishing anglers care about the rules that affect them and how they affect them, and that biasness never turns off. There's very few of the pro anglers that truly look at a rule conversation or a rule potentially being changed and thinks first, how will this benefit the sport? How will this help the sport? Immediately, and I'm not saying that in a judgmental way.
Yeah.
This is a like, dog eat dog. Everyone's fighting for their. So obviously, the first thing that there's a biasness, you just can't turn off on that. So that's a lot of what I've seen whenever rules things come up and things like that. It's always, and that's not going to change. There's very few, like that'll look at things. And Palinek's the guy I'll always brag on. Like, I had to stand up in a group of anglers and bring up something a couple years ago, and it was like you could hear a pin drop. No one really said much, but Palinek truly can look at things, and he's in a unique position. I get it, but he's always a guy that can look at things. And there's others. There's plenty of them that do. But so like all that stuff going on with the forward sonar. I just say, like, now that I've been home and decompressed some, I wish I had their problem. I wish that was my problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I will say it. There's a very good group of core anglers that are in their early 30s that I think are that are understanding. I don't want to say make it sound like this is life or death, but it's your business. It's your job. The responsibility that they have to kind of be the stewards for the sport for the next. And I'll put definitely Palinek in there. And this is this is controversial here. I talk to this guy a lot, and he has a much deeper understanding than a lot of people realize about this. Jacob Wheeler is one of them. He he is very engaged as to what is going on off the water, on how things are working, formats. I know he's not everyone's favorite angler, but he is very tuned into that and really cares about it. I mean, you have to remember that dude won an All-American when he was 18 years old, 19 years old. Been around he's invested in this thing. And then also a guy that literally didn't give a crap for like 8 years. And now all of a sudden is Jordan Lee. Yeah.
Well, I think some of them, someone like Jordan, like I know Jordan a little personally. I've never met Jacob or anything, but obviously he's done great things. But like someone like Jordan too, I think some of that's his maturity process. Him seeing
100%.
He's not goofy Jordan with renting a house at Guntersville. Like, and as he's had success now, I think he's taken a leadership role. So like kudos to the guys that are doing that. So many of the anglers can't though, man. They're fighting for their spots, fighting for sponsorship, all that kind of stuff. So they're always gonna be biased when something comes up. I mean, I don't blame them, but it's cool to see guys
biased like in the opens rules. They said just send out a questionnaire about the opens rules, and I'm literally answering those questions thinking, how is this going to benefit me going into next year's opens? What is going to make it easier for me to catch fish, to qualify for the Elite Series, to do what I want to do? And it's not, I'm not sitting there thinking about what is the best for the sport? Like, oh, if we have a longer practice, that probably brings in more money for bass, which allows them to. No, I'm thinking, I'm thinking everything from my terms.
Yeah. No, and I've just seen it like, it's odd, like how you'll talk to an angler about something being brought up, and they'll stand on one side of the fence for one thing, and then something comes up, and you think you know them a little, and like how they're going to feel, and they'll feel something totally different about that one. So, yeah, like I'm being, in all honesty and fairness, dude. The way my season ended and stuff like that. I come home and just turned all that off. Like I hadn't been on social media much. I posted a ton of awesome videos. If you don't follow me on Facebook, my personal page. Of great things of my wife through the years, and just kind of, I want to come home and decompress from the fishing and celebrate her 40th birthday. It was a big deal. So other than that, dude, I checked out some. I saw all the Ford Sonar stuff going on and all that. But again, I wish I had those problems. That's really all I can say about it.
First world problems.
Yeah, first world problems, dude. Kudos to them for having those problems. I got my own right now. So
all right, we'll dive into it. You've mentioned it 3 times, so we'll dive into how this is going. And I'll say this: there's been a lot of talk on who's in, who's out on the Elite Series. The only thing that Bassmaster has officially published, which they put out at the end of last month, was where it currently stands for the Bassmaster Classic standings. They actually, I will give kudos to Bassmaster, who a lot of this stuff is kind of muddied. They came out with like a diagram. Here, I'll show you the diagram right here.
Yeah, because I probably didn't see this.
It's a pretty cool diagram. Boom, there it is right there. And it talks about who's in, who's out, how they got in, everything like that. And then the first 3 that are out. So the last 3 in are Wendlandt, Mueller, and Cole Sands, which big shout out to Paul Mueller for what's that?
I was just seeing what event that was. That after St. Clair, maybe?
No, this is it right now. Like this is.
Oh, it's done. Okay.
Yeah. This is as of August 31st.
Right.
So there's still 3 Bass Nation spots, a team championship spot, and a college bracket spot, and 3 Bassmaster Open spots.
Yeah. So some of those the guys, obviously, we're talking about Gaston, Scott Martin, and Bill Lowen.
Yes.
They are rooting in the Opens for. They don't want me to win.
No,
they do not want me to win
because you would go now.
Because I'd get the spot.
Here's the interesting stat, and we'll talk about the classics first. So Gaston, if Gaston wins an Open, if he decides to fish any of the last 3, which most of the time at this point of the year, you can get into an Open last minute.
Yeah.
If he wins, he makes the Classic, not because he qualifies through the Opens, but because he wins a Classic without qualifying through the Opens, which then puts him in the Open. Scott Martin's in the same deal. If a guy doesn't qualify through the Opens, then Gaston, then he's first out. So Scott Martin either has to win 2 of the last 3 Opens, hope that 2 guys who aren't in win 2 of the last 3 Opens.
Right.
He's in the same spot that he was in last year, which is wild to think about it. After all the casts and all the fishing and everything, he was like last man in last year, and it comes down to that. I'm just saying, if I'm Scott Martin, I'm making some calls, and I'm saying, I need you, and you to jump in these last 3 Opens.
I might not have drove home to Florida if I was in his spot. I'd be fishing those Opens. I know, like Keith Combs has been in that spot before where like he showed up to the last two. So essentially he's trying to win his way in.
Yeah.
But on paper, he's preventing someone by through the open. So he would technically still qualify over there, but it don't matter if you get in, So,
right.
But what those guys are looking for is they don't want an unqualified angler to take that spot basically. So if anyone fishing all of them wins, they're going to take the spot, which means they won't.
Or anyone fishing just that division.
Or just that
all
division because they wouldn't qualify. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like me, I'm fishing, I'm going to Lake of the Ozarks. I fish the other two. If I were to win, I would take one of those spots.
Chip in a chair, I think, is the statement. That's the saying, isn't it?
If I was those boys, I'd be showing up like trying to win it myself. I mean, that's what I've seen other guys do. They show up and try to win themselves to get their spot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You have to be, speaking of confidence, you have to be rolling if you're like, yeah, I think I can show up and win 2 of the last 3 to get in.
Dude, everyone on that list and below that list, they think that mentality, they can show up whether they've been there before or not. And that is no disrespect to anyone in the opens at all. I'm just telling you the mentality. They think they can win, especially if they go with the intent to win and not fish for points.
You're in a different ball game. You're on a different. You're playing a completely different game.
Yeah, I just got my butt kicked up north, and I think I might win Ozarks, even though I've been there once. You know, it's just. But
you're playing a different game at Lake of the Ozarks because it doesn't matter if you finish 110th. It's not like, oh my gosh, if I get a 60th place, I stay in it to make the Elite Series. You can be at 1 o'clock and still be slinging a big bait somewhere with one fish in the box and doing it with confidence because you can take risks.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway, I say that to say
cool
that
it's cool they showed that to like kind of show what's still, even though the season's kind of done on the elites, there's still some stuff. You know, there's some interesting things going to happen here. So
I'm sure you've gotten a lot of DMs about it. I know I have gotten a lot of DMs like, hey, can you run us through who's in and who's out for the 2024 Bassmaster Elite Series season, which is crazy. It starts happening this day that the day the season ends. And it's always like that too. Like in college football, the day the season ends, it's like they come out with the way too early predictions for the next year. Yeah. But that list is not officially out. And if there's one thing I've learned covering this from 2008 to 2018 at every single Elite Series event is until you see it on paper and it's official, you never tell someone that they're in and you never tell someone that they're out because you make that mistake once and either way, it's a little bit brutal on that. So that's why you haven't seen it yet because it's not officially out yet.
It's not official because there's still a lot of moving parts, and that's how Bass handles it. Some of that Bass handles it. This is my opinion. I believe they handle it to try to treat the guys on that list, especially the ones that are potentially going to be cut, just to treat them with class because those guys are working on sponsors, looking at what they're going to do next year if they are cut and all that. So I think some of that's just to be classy toward those guys, but. Essentially, what happens now is the anglers we've got a list. I mean, it's public where we finish this year, but we've been emailed a list of where you are on the career average list, and that's a wild formula to get there. But so we have the list. I'm in the bottom 10 on that list, which means as of now I'm not requalified. So the reason they don't get into all that is you just never know what's going to happen. Even for me, if enough guys turn down their invitation when they go out. So if enough guys ahead of me, life happens, they're retiring, lose sponsors, whatever. If there's attrition occurs, they work down the list to fill it. So that's part of why they can't put it out yet. So we've all seen that list. Obviously, I knew going into the season, we actually had a hard line going into the season for the first time in my career on the elites. And it's probably going to be that way for a while.
Which I liked.
I agreed with very much because it gives an angler in my position a shot to know where they got to finish. So basically this year, if you finished in this year's points, 70th or better, you're safe. Doesn't matter what your career average number was, how high it was, none of that. Top 70 or better, AOY. I think, was Frank Talley 70th this year?
Frank Talley beat out Mark Menendez by a single point.
Yeah, and so by doing that, I think Frank was a guy that needed to do that to be safe, I think, without looking at the exact list. And there are other anglers that come from behind the last few events.
Matty Wong.
Yeah, he was.
I've got Matty on Wednesday from Hawaii.
Did it, yeah. So there's a lot of dudes behind me that needed to catch them, move up, going up north, and they did. And So they automatically requalify. So that's what we do know right now. Everyone 70th or better in this year's points will get an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to everyone below that is you're basically put in a pool, and it's going to go by your career average. And there's different ways they get those numbers and all those things. And I won't bore everybody with that.
Peed in. It's a peed in pool.
It's for a lot of us. No, it's like old. It's not pee. It's like the Baby Ruth, whatever movie that was. The Baby Ruth in the pool.
They clean the pool. Floating around in the pool.
Oh, it's
There's 30 of you in there, and you hope it doesn't touch you.
Yeah. No, I'm the guy cleaning up the net.
Sorry.
So, but no,
keep going. This is helpful.
If you finish below that, and if you're below that, you go in that pool, and then it kind of works its way up. So, like in that pool, it's based on your AOY average, and so they come to that number. Mm-hmm. They send out that list where you are on that number. Obviously, I can say this. I'm one of the guys that's toward the bottom of that. So as of now, we are not requalified. The bottom, I think maybe 10 or 11 on that. Some of the part of why they don't put that out though is every year there's a little attrition. Some guys change careers, they retire, all those reasons decide to not take their qualification. So as they do that, they work down that list is basically how that works. So now in the old days, like there would be guys, you remember this, Matt, guys would qualify through the opens. Like the working man would out there and just had a great season and qualify. And some of them would actually turn that down. That don't happen now. Everyone in the opens is doing it to make it, right? So that's a little what's going on there. I think sometimes the fans may think that they don't put and they want to know, and how awesome is it that they love our sport enough. They want to know who's back and who's not. But that's always hard for me to explain because people see the AOY list and see I finished 74th, I think. And they're like, oh, if 4 people don't come back, you're in. I'm like, nope, you got 2 different lists going on. Like, even though I finished 74th this year, it don't work that way. So the top 70 are requalified. All those dudes they're probably chilling by the pool, having an adult beverage and loving life. And then it goes into the angler of the year average. And those of us in the bottom of that, we're in the pool with the floaters and all that, just not loving life.
This is where it gets crazy because the angler of the year average depends on how many years you've been on the Elite Series as to whether you get a drop year or not. I mean, so listen, this is BTL. We like to go into the weeds. If you don't want to get into it, you don't. But I would love to understand. So would Clay. Clay wants to know how you do it. He said, please bore us. Clay, I mean, there's a bunch of people that want to actually know how it kind of works.
Matt, you know that I had to study these a lot because after having, I had a poor first season by the standard I set for myself. I think I finished 75th out of around 100 guys.
Yep.
And due to the fact that Bass did not cut the prior year, they didn't cut in 2020 because of COVID. So in 21, they cut 23 dudes. They did like a double cut. And so I ended up not having a great season. And on top of my poor performance, they cut everyone behind me.
Mm-hmm. So you automatically went bottom of the barrel.
Correct. You got to kind of go rabbit hole. Like when you finish 75th out of 100, you're not holding your head high. But then when I started breaking down the points next season, and I think most anglers would do this in this case, like where do I need to finish next year to requalify? Because you do. When you qualify to the opens, you get 2 years. People say you get 2 years. That first year ain't free. Whatever you do counts.
It still counts. Okay?
Yeah, I think sometimes coming in, guys are like, I get 2 years. Now you get guaranteed 2 years to fish. Your first year results still count. So, and I'm speaking from my perspective. When I go to looking at the point and see what I got to do, and you're looking at the AOY average that we all have, and again, that's not public. But so you're looking at where you stand on that, and I'm like, well, dang, I beat some people. Why is I'm at the bottom of the barrel in comparison to all their numbers?
Because a lot of people below you got cut in 21. You came on in 22. And then the anglers that competed in 20 had 75 anglers in the field. So they couldn't finish below 75.
Yeah, like in 18 and 19, the field size was smaller and all that. I'm not going to go into how they get all their numbers on all that because there's just a lot of crazy low averages. And it's but just to tell you, from what I understand about it, and someone at Bass could probably tell you, like Ronnie or someone who's like knows this stuff by heart. But basically, I got a 2-year average after my second year. Then you go in, then they look at what they're going to cut. So I was on the outside looking in last year, like went through it, like I'm going back to the opens, all that kind of stuff to requalify. And last year's field size, so my second year on tour, we had 90, and it was decided that they wanted to go back to 100. So my first year I fished 100, second year it was like 90, and I'm saying 90. It may have been 94 because they have the legend exemptions and all that as well. So we go 90, and then going into my third year, they decided to bump the field back up. So due to them bumping it back up and due to the way all the exemptions worked out, back in. No one got cut last year. So, so going into this year now, I fished this year, and my average is based on 3 years. I believe if an angler has 4 years, it's based on 4. If an angler has 5 years with bass, they get to drop a year. So they take their last 5 years, drop their worst, and then they get a 4-year average. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I know it gets so muddy, dude. So
I know, but that's what we got to go through so people kind of understand at least a little bit of what
it can be super complicated, but like, so your guys that this was their second year this year, you take their 2 years wherever they finished and divide by 2. Simple. Yep. Like for me, I think my number is 75. I think I finished 74, 75, 76. So when you divide it by 3, boom. It gets a little muddy and hard to keep up with for the fan because you don't know what anglers have been there 5 years.
Yeah, when once you get 5, you get a drop year. So if you finish 100th, but you'd finished
right,
you can drop this year. So then it's basically it's to keep the established anglers who have done it for more than 5 years, give them the option of, hey, you had a bad year, you can kind of ride that wave.
Yeah, it's something
through it.
And again, I've told folks,
but then if they finish 100th 2 years in a row, they have to keep one of those 100s.
One of them counts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it gets weird. Like I've told some of the folks at Bass, I'm friends with a lot of the staff, media people, all that. I don't want their job because it's they're trying to. You got new guys coming in. You got to try to keep it fair for them. You have guys that have been out there 30 years, 15 years. You got to keep it fair for them. It's a dicey thing, but I'm just telling you what it is. I'm really not giving you my opinion on how I feel about it. But
objective.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as much as I can be, but just factual. This is where it is. And so if you have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you literally just add. It doesn't matter how many you fished against. None of those things matter. It's where you finish into the year. AOI finish.
Yep.
You add those together, divide them by the years, and that gives you your AOI average. So that's why it looks, even though I finished 74th on the season, it doesn't mean if 4 guys retire, I come back. I'm on the AOI average number. I'm down toward the bottom. So I need a lot of guys to not come back to requalify. So I hope that clears it up some.
Yeah, because you were 75th last year.
Yeah,
and like in your first year, you were
about the same. I was pretty consistent. May have been 75th again. Or 76.
You're 77th.
77.
You have a 74th, a 75th, and a 77th.
Yeah. So for my number, you can add those 3 together, divide them by 3, and that's my average number right there.
So
that's how they figure that out. And then they got to decide how many to cut. I believe this year the number is 10. I'm going to peek.
Yeah. I believe it was from what I've heard.
But even that could change based on, if some guys don't come back and those kind of things.
Yep. A lot of guys are asking. So Legends exemption is you get a point for every Bassmaster Classic you've won and every Angler of the Year that you've won.
Yeah.
Every year that you don't re-qualify through like if you're on the cutting block, you can basically you get a chip and you can toss in your Legends chip.
So your Legends guys, it's kind of weird, but try to explain it. Like you said, if you have an AOI or Classic, you get a point. You've accrued a point through your career. So however many you got. But you don't have to use that point if, like, say, for instance,
if you finish high.
If you finish high enough, or if you go into there's a few Legends that are on that list with me on your career average. They fell in that pool, and then it goes to the average. So as it works its way down the list, if enough people retire, they can come back based on qualifying and not use a point. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But they have a point if they need it, if they have it.
In their back pocket.
In their back pocket, they have it. So it gets a little weird, but, I don't know. My opinion on some of that, like someone like Rick Clunn should just get to fish until he don't want to fish anymore.
Yeah, I agree too. I agree.
Let the dude fish forever. And he will.
The PGA has a lifetime, a lifetime exemption deal.
Yeah, give it to him. But he has enough points where if he chooses, he would be back next year. He hasn't used all his points yet.
So that hasn't been out either, because there's also some legends that are down there at the bottom. You can go through and do the math on that if you want to by yourself. But then you also have then there's also some medical guys that are on there.
Yeah. So, if someone takes a medical exemption, they still have their spot the following season. So basically what they're trying to do at the end of the season now, with those that have automatically qualified already. So the top 70 know they're getting a spot. At the end of the open season, so many guys know they're getting a spot.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they go through the pool of anglers, they're just trying to get to 100.
Yep.
And again, as far as I know, the exemptions will be added. So anyone
that's why you end
medical,
102, 103. So
that's why you see that. So like if they took a medical exemption, their spot is held, but they're not held. They're not knocking someone else out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, and the same with the legends. If they're using a legend point, then that's where you get the 103, 104. That's where you get the odd number out. But the field size they're trying to build to is 100. So,
like Bernie Schultz ended up taking a medical exemption. He finished at he still finished at 79th and missed the last 2 events.
Yeah, he was
three events.
Three. Yeah, he was having a very good season. Like he was a guy that had a shot at making the Classic before he had his surgery.
And he always catches him up north.
Yeah, he would have been tough for sure. So,
and that's right. Rich said no legends points are used in years where nobody gets cut.
Yeah, if no one gets cut, they get to save a spot. Yeah.
So like Clun has, how many anglers a year does he have? 2, 3, 1?
I don't know.
He's got a couple, but he's got the 4 classics.
Yeah, you'd have to know too how many times he's finished below the cut line and had to use a point. And a lot of that, like, dude, that ain't our business. I ain't worried about that.
Yeah. So what about then, and this is the last thing we'll take, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and to dive into another hot topic about guiding. A guy like Hallman. So Hallman fishes like 06 through 2010, takes some years off, goes and beats up the FLW tour for a couple W's, comes back to the Elite Series, has a rough year this year.
Yeah.
Even though it's been 12 years since he's been on the Elite Series, they're averaging those numbers from 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then averaging it with this year. So does he have 2 years no matter what?
He still gets came back. Yeah, he's not. He couldn't. Yeah, when they come back, when you qualify through the opens, and it's a gauntlet, you deserve those 2 years. So they give him 2 years. As far as he's not at risk until next season. So
he probably gets to drop if this is the lowest he's finished, and he's got 5 years on the Elite Series. He gets to drop his 98.
I bet you he knows. I bet you he knows for sure. But yeah, so they for his career average, they factor in his career, right? So yeah, I'm not sure if he gets the drop, but they do factor in all those years way back when into his number.
If you're a rookie and you drop really bad first year, the way it stands now, your life now depends on finishing above 70 every year for the next 4 years until you can purge that 100th out of your average.
I'll refresh myself. And again, I'm not saying all this. I guess I should have just like precursored everything I'm saying was
according to how I understand it.
Well, according to how I understand it too, and also I'm a guy that like I'm in this spot. Like I dreamed of being in this damn spot. So now that it didn't work out exactly like I wanted to, like I'm not gonna make excuses. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say any of that. And I don't want to get into how like I lost fish, I touched fish, I did everything I needed to do was right there. So I knew where I needed to finish this year and I didn't. So I have to say that to own it. But yeah, a guy coming out now, and you got to think too, my first 2 years, that top 70 number wasn't there. Like after 2 years, you're going in the average, and me being privy to seeing what those numbers were going into year 2, seeing, oh God, I had a 75 my first year. So my career average number for year 1 is 75. I got to flip that to below, I think it was below a 52. So when I done the math on that, and again, it's all moving numbers as the season goes on and people finish, you just don't know, it's moving numbers.
That's why it's not out. That's why it's not.
Yeah, it's moving numbers. So it's really hard. But as an angler, you do try to look at where do I need to finish to have a shot. And for me going into year 2, I needed to finish probably mid-20s in order to get my career average low enough. Yep. So, and keep in mind, we didn't have that top 70. Now we have that top 70 thing. A guy in my position going in year 2, if if that was in place for me going into year 2, I wouldn't have been thinking, oh, I need to finish 25th to get my number low. I'd have been thinking, let's get inside the top 70. That's your number one goal.
So you took some more risks last year to try to get your average up, because you were like, it doesn't matter if I finish 50th. I need to be finishing 20th. Yes. But then when they changed the rule, you could have made some of those changes to where you added a fish here, a fish there, 6 ounces here, grind it out a day there.
You don't know if you could have. If you could have, you probably would have. But a guy coming out, I guess if I had to tell the Opens guys that's coming out, this would be what I would tell them. You got to figure out what your victories are at this level. So being a dude that fished around here all forever, it didn't matter in the BFL if you went out and got 12 pounds that day and only finished 80th instead of that don't matter. You would just go for it. When you get out on the tours, out on the road, flipping your 85th and 90s, flipping them into 70s and 60s will be a victory you will not see at the time. But future you is going to be so grateful that you caught them 2 extra fish and weighed your limit. Like, that's such a big deal. So it's the way this competition is, the way the sport is laid out. Coming out, you have to come out and do well, which honestly, like, the way I look at it for me in the end, if I'm going to make it and my career ain't done, so I may not be back on the elites next year if things don't work out. But to me, you have to go through those things and learn how to overcome them and better yourself, or you're never going to do what you need to do anyways and be profitable and have a good career. So, you get your 2 years. I would tell everyone you come out and catch every dang bass you can. I told a lot of the guys that were second-year guys this year that I've become friends with, claw for every point your first season. Like, you have to do that, because in the end, you need it. And I'll look back at there's times where, especially last season, when I felt like I had to really gamble and get my number super low, that I look back and I'm like, man, like a few here, a few there. It could have maybe changed some things for me, but it didn't.
That's what I have a tough time grappling with in this sport, competitive activity, whatever you want to take it.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to rationalize. And I mean, I live this stuff, Darold, you know that. I live it. That's my life.
Me too. I'm a psycho. It's all I do.
But I can't rationalize or wrap my head around, I've been one fish from making the Elite Series before. You've been one fish from staying on the Elite Series now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also the guy I caught one of my last casts to qualify for the Elite.
I remember that at Louisville. So what I have a tough time rationalizing is you have thousands of hours in it and you've dedicated it, and this is your passion, and it comes down to one fish. And if you catch it, you're a hero, you're an all-star, you're on the Elite Series. If you don't catch it, if that 6-pounder slips out of your hands, now we're talking about how we're not on the Elite Series. We did this interview with you 3 years ago on BTL about your wife standing, watching you fishing that point on Louisville with 3 minutes left, hollering that you caught a 2.5-pounder. I can't understand. I can't rationalize how it comes down to something that's so, I don't want to say random, but so minuscule.
It is, but you could look at that on guys in the classic line right now looking out. You showed that list a minute ago. Those guys are thinking about fish that got away. There's guys that are in that are thinking about, I caught the one that had one hook on it barely and got it in. That is this sport, period. When I won the Open on Toledo Bend, I had this big bag day 2 and made this roaring comeback. And on stage, everyone's like, dude, you wrecked them. Caught 6 fish that day, dude. 6.
You lose one of those, it's not.
You lose one of those, you're toast. If my 8-pounder is small, that is our sport, dude. It's the life we chose. It's what we love about it. The fact that you're always one bite away is also what pushes you.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? You're one bite away from doing this podcast, and you're one bite away from preparing for deer season, knowing you made the classic. I was right there all year. I lived that line, dude. So
Wednesday, I'm doing a Matty Wong interview from Hawaii, talking about, hey, dude, you freaking wrecked him in the last one, and you jumped up above 70th, and you were going to be the nation guy with the most positive attitude, but now he caught 2 fish, jumped him up there. I don't know. It's hard to rationalize it. Do you agree?
And
Do you struggle with that rationalization too sometimes?
100%, but you won't. What I always go back to is I chose this for a reason. I love it. I'm passionate about it. The fact I still pinch myself every day. This is what I get to do as a job. And that's what's helping me go through this right now, because it's crushing. And that's probably why you saw it all pour out on anyone that watched on stage and saw me being a crybaby, and then being a crybaby the next day on live is like exactly what you're talking about, dude. You think about all that stuff, and I like go on stage like big boy pants on. I know there's like people betting I'm gonna come up there and pour it out and cry on Oprah's couch, and I'm like, and then dude, it just hits you like, if I want to be back on this stage, I know what I got to do. So, but that's what we love about this.
I know
you chose what you're going through.
Yeah, if you want to look at it from that standpoint, you could look at it as, Game 7 in the NLCS, and the ball is an inch fair instead of an inch foul, and then a team that won the pennant and everything is going home, and you're like, well, why wasn't that ball 6 inches foul?
Yeah, and like, to me, when I poured, and I say I poured out, I still held back. I could have cried for 20 minutes up there, but if you're going to get on stage and woohoo and fist pump and act crazy and be passionate because you love it so much on the good days, I do think a lot of guys probably hold it together better than me. They may cry backstage, or they may cry on their way home or in their wife's shoulder. But that's just, I don't know, when you're passionate about something, dude, it's going to be a love and I don't want to say hate, but sometimes it's going to break your heart. So, and I've been very blessed, dude. I have probably overachieved many times for my talent level and got to live some very high moments. And so with that, if you don't expect the bad moments to potentially come and all that, like, you're not being fair to yourself. Like, that's just how it's going to be. And again, like, in the end, all those little tears at your heart, all those little sores that build up through bass fishing, if you're going to come out where you want to be, they're going to callus up and you fight through it and get better. If you don't think that, then you find you a comfortable spot on the couch and you start another business and you get a new job.
Or you start analyzing the guys who aren't making it
yeah, or
on Texas Fishing Forum.
I told you the other day I might just start a podcast. I might just do that. And you kind of had a response about that to lead into our next segment. You said, oh, yeah, there's not enough of those now. Kind of like fishing guys.
I'm all about podcasts, but just like fishing, if you go out and you try to fish like someone else and do exactly what they do in their pattern and stuff, you won't be successful. If you come out, like, look at Zaldane, like, they're killing it with their podcast. There were 500 podcasts when their podcast came out, but they've made it their own.
Super unique. Yeah. Super unique and like a new perspective.
Same with Dave, same with Luke, same with all those guys. We all have our little. You got to be different. You have to make it your own, just like fishing, just like life, just like your job, just like you got to make it your own and have a passion for it and a reason why you're doing it. So if you have that, freaking have at it, Daryl.
Yeah. Well, and there's like a lot of people that would probably, I probably have some friends who would love to whisper in my ear to like, dude, find something else, or like stay home and guide. Like, I had a very good guide business going here on Toledo Bend and stuff. So like, I don't know. And
but dude, quality of life. I talk about this too. Like, you get one shot at this. You've put yourself in a position to do this. And I have a lot of people that are like, dude, you know how much money you could save? You know how much money you could save? Why the hell are you still fishing the opens? You've been doing it for 4 years. You've only had a couple top 10s. Like, how many years are you going to get close wasting 35,000? It's a quality of life thing. It's a passion. It's waking up with the goal of something to do in the future. And that has to play into it to some impact, to some extent, to a lot of extent. Like, that's what makes you do irrational things. Yeah. But makes you alive every morning.
And I think sometimes that's why like bass fishing hasn't blew up, because it's hard for people outside, or people have no idea what we're doing. It's hard for them to understand. It's just as hard for your weekend guy to ever comprehend the highs and the lows we go through. And again, there's no griping about that, because we choose it, and I've got to live those highs. But dude, the lows are brutal. But you bounce back, dude. It didn't take me long to kind of, I don't want to say get over it, because I'm always going to think about the fish that I touched on that northern swing that
were they giants? Yeah.
At St. Clair, I lost the crap out of them. I lost like the weird things. I think I texted you at some point and said, if it could go wrong, it's going wrong.
Stuff where like you literally stand there and go, I didn't do anything wrong. I did nothing wrong.
No. And then I watched the other guys like just wind them to the boat, horse them. But like, for instance, and I'm not going to do the ones that got away story because it's not cool. But
it is cool if you get asked about it. It's not cool if you just verbal diarrhea it. If I'm asking about it, Darold, this gives you a pass.
So I have one at St. Clair. You know, you usually generally smallmouth, you kind of scoop them like a football, and you get under their belly, and they quit and they say, "Catch me, daddy," and it's all over, right? So I scooped this fish. It's probably a 4 1/4, 4 pounder. When you only weigh 17 pounds, that helps, right?
Big fish.
And everyone, if you looked at the standings, especially St. Clair, dude, a pound is like 8 or 10 points. Like, that's a lot of points. But I scoop it, and it does like this, like bull riding jerk, right? Like, and I literally watch my hook that's perfectly in its snout, right dead center, perfect. He hit his head on my boat, and when he hit his head, the hook hit and knocked it out. Even then, a lot of times if that happens, they're sort of stunned. You have him by the belly. He's just headbutted your boat. He might kind of chill for a minute. No. He blew like it got this new amount of energy, and he just rode off into the sunset, dude. And my marshal's sitting there like over me, like waiting to video me like this cool moment. And I turn around like, all right, and you just go back to fishing. I've never had a fish knock the hook out with my boat. Like
on the bottom of the rub rail.
It's dumb. Yeah. But then the reverse of that is at Louisville that year, I catch one with Chris Bowes waiting in the background, dude. Like I'm at the off limit sign. I catch a 2.5 pounder to make the elites. So there's give and take in this. And that's why I don't like dwelling on the ones that got away. But yeah. I jumped everything off. Just the 21, I jumped off up north, and what I touched.
Now, let me ask you this. When you were jumping them off, was your first thought, dear God, please don't jump, or man, it's a long way? Like, were you thinking about losing that fish as it was happening? Because that's what I struggle with, Daryl. When it's going good, it's like, got his ass. When it's going bad, I'm like, oh God, that is a long way to get him in.
Dude, isn't it so much like golf when you come up to, like, let's say you've played 12 holes and you've hit a little baby cut all day long, just perfectly in the fairway. And you finally get up to a hole and there's water down the right. And your mind says, don't slice it. It's amazing how often you slice it.
How does that work though? Because that's not, you can't translate losing a fish through your line and rod.
But we all know how many times you hook one. If you say, oh, got him, you land like all of them. If he jumps and you see he's big, and you say the words, don't come off,
it's going to come off. How does that work? Why does that happen? How is that like a universe thing?
It doesn't happen every time. It's just mental. But yeah, I'll think a lot about those smallmouth. My wife actually finally told me no, but I was going to do like the teardrop prison tattoo. I was going to do like a smallmouth one.
Just down the size of your cheeks.
Just like right here, just little smallmouth. Like maybe count out the number of the ones I touched that got away and like put them in. But I'm not gangster enough to do that, so we probably won't do that. But dude, you can look at, again, the guys just outside the classic, other guys on the list with me. It's a thin line, dude. So is what it is.
All right. Holy cow, we're an hour in. We got to take a break. We'll be back. Darold Gleason. Monday, holiday Monday, September 4th. Holy cow, September already. We're just months away from cool weather, hopefully. BTL, we'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top 1 Strike King.
Great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Shoreline boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at shorelineboatandrv.com. Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa. All right, welcome back. BTL on a Monday, talking with Darold Gleason with one of the top 5 views we've ever had on a BTL. I mean, that is not a screen behind you. That is the capital THE Toledo Bend Reservoir.
Like yeah,
I do.
I'm not going out there for a few days, but yeah, it's out there. Plenty of people enjoying it.
So are you gonna? are you guiding this fall, winter? Have you even thought that far ahead?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Starting to somewhat book trips. I still have, we have Lake of the Ozarks like 2 weeks away.
Yep. I'll see you there. Well, I might not see you there. That's a giant fishery.
Maybe at takeoff.
You got a plan for that? Like, you got something up your sleeve of what, you gotta, no, just going to go.
I literally have not thought about it at all. I won't talk about it to anybody. My plan is this week, early in the morning, 3 or 4 mornings, to get out in the boat and find my inner peace and start working on tackle. I'm going to get all that max scent out of my boat. Might eat it for breakfast or something, but no, I gotta, I spent all summer smallmouth fishing, so I gotta do all that. And that's going to be my time to start getting my head wrapped around that. But I have that. I have a wedding to go to, so we have a little 3 or 4 day getaway then. And then I have the bonus bucks
tournament.
The owners tournament, October 21st, 22nd, maybe.
Okay, so you still have a lot of time on though.
Yeah, we have some time in between to do all my guiding. So I'll be there just working for Dynamic, probably passing out some free swag. But that's coming up. So all the Toyota owners, if you haven't registered, you should go register. It's a really cool event. Have you ever been to one of those?
No, I need a new truck too. No,
you need a new truck, but okay. Here's the beautiful thing: is both people don't have to be Toyota owners. Just find a buddy that has a qualifying vehicle, 4 years or newer, I believe, maybe 5.
Okay.
I'm off my game this morning, but free. It's a free tournament. It's kind of a cool deal. This year it's at Pickwick Lake. It kind of moves. It's been at Table Rock. It's been at Toledo Bend before.
When is it? You said the 20th though?
I think October 21st, 22nd, maybe.
See, I'm going to the Zach Bryan concert on October 20th.
We'll see. You make poor life choices.
That's not a poor life choice. That's a good life choice. But I would like to go to an owner's tournament because I hear, and based on what I've seen, and Dynamic does such a good job of covering it and stuff, it looks like it's a great time.
So from my perspective, I've been an angler that has fished that, and I've been an angler that works at it. I've been both.
Oh, yeah, you have.
It's almost, to me, it's almost like for the Toyota owners, it's similar. You get treated somewhat like what you get the Classic. Like, you get to go through the swag line and get all the cool swag and all that stuff. So, when people see the bonus buck shirts or the Toyota hats, they see guys wearing them. That's a lot of times where they get those. So it's no entry fee. They pay $5,000 to first place. They pay all the way down to 31st. Yeah, I said no entry fee. Like even the pros really don't get many no entry fee. Look at you on top of your game, dude. But it's a cool, fun weekend. A little team tournament. A lot of the pros will be there. Your Toyota pros will be there and stuff like that. Usually, Gerald's there talking on the mic on stage. So it's just a cool, fun time. So I'll be there working that. And then in between, yes, I'll be guiding. I love guiding in the fall on Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn. It's a super fun time. Lots of numbers. It's not, you probably won't see me posting 10-pounders every week, but tons of fun to do that. It's a great numbers time. It's a great time of the year to teach electronics and all those, those fun things that I do on the side.
You mentioned that.
Yeah.
You started, what year did you start guiding in? Like, would you say like, hey, I'm a fishing guide?
Yeah. I mean, for me, there was a hard line there. I did it part-time when I was working on my master's degree. Like I took off, I taught school for 7 years, junior high. And then I took off to work on my master's. Wait,
you were a junior high teacher for 7 years?
Yeah. That's where all this gray comes from.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Like 11 to 14-year-olds. It was wild.
And that was of your own choosing? Like, yeah, it wasn't like a, like
no,
you
my
just,
wife forced
like
me.
you.
My wife forced me to have a job. And no, at that point, like we were pretty young in our marriage. It was just a good way for us to have, I was the insurance, like my wife has she was born with cystic fibrosis, which is very costly. If anyone with a disease like that, it's very costly. So, school teaching for me was, it was a lot of things, but the biggest thing was a way to have insurance to help pay for that. And I got weekends and holidays to fish. It was great.
Oh, and summers.
Yeah. And summers. So, after 7 years, I took off, was going to finish up my master's. And while I was finishing up my master's, I started guiding just kind of part-time. Did 50 trips that year or something like that. So, and then the next year, like I was kind of like, I like this more than teaching. So I'm going to try it full time. And of course my wife was like, go for it. And, I don't know what year that was, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, 10, 11 years ago.
Okay.
Like so
I asked that question. Say you're a long time established guide. Is it just me, or have you noticed a massive is it social media? Just all those people were out there, but now people are advertising it. But it seems like there's every tons. Fishery, like there's a lot more guides and specialty guide trips now than there ever has been.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a lot more. When I started doing it, there was only a handful of bass guides on Toledo that 24/7 all year did bass. A lot of the guys would do I think like Harold. Harold very well. Like they would
throw crappie in there.
Yeah, then throw crappie in. Like as the summer come along, they do some crappie. So there's only a few, and now there's even here in Rayburn and all that. It's everywhere. So I don't know. At time, I think a lot of the established guides, it annoys them that there's so many new ones coming in, but it's our fault. We're out here living the best life, loving what we do and all that. We've inspired others to join us. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of guides now everywhere. And like you said, there's a lot of specialty guides. There's a lot of guides that travel to St. Lawrence and live for 2 months and guide. And there's
my buddy Rick does it with Hill Country, and then he comes down and guides in Texas, and then they do like ladder matches on OHIV during the during
I see some of those videos.
And,
yeah,
I mean,
some of
it's
their videos
absolutely
are pretty epic.
And he's been doing it full time. He started on Amistad. He's probably 8-10 years in now too on that. But
yeah,
that's interesting because you think of guide like, okay, when I think of guide, like getting into it, you're thinking a crusty dude who's on the water every day, who puts you on the fish. And now it seems almost like there's been a transition at the top level of professional fishing as to how it's done, how the tournaments are won.
Right.
Like I said, not getting into that today, but it seems like that transition is also on the guiding side too. Like it's not, it's a completely new world, and it's kind of like, I wouldn't want to say a free for all, but there's
it is. It's not very regulated. Yeah. It's not very regulated. Like, and I'm never a guy that's going to throw shots at anyone. It was my dream job. It's it was my way to make a living fishing.
You were a new guy at one point too.
I was too. And there's a few crusty old farts here that gave me lots of trouble that didn't like me guys. I get it. Now on my end, and I hope others that are looking to get in, just try to be respectful and do things the right way. Don't be out doing things you shouldn't. And I did try to do that, and even still, it is what it is. But yeah, back then I was one, and I'm not ever going to say the first one, but I was one of the early ones doing like electronic stuff. Like, I'm going to teach you how to use your side scan, down scan, and catch them offshore. And so I was doing a lot of those instructional things where I blended my school teaching in with how I like to fish. I like to fish offshore. And now, like, there's people everywhere, like electronic strips. And so the running joke all around here, I'm not the one making the joke. I'll just say is like, we're dialing in a new customer today. And so a lot of the guys are doing that, putting it on social media as a way to promote their business. So I'm not casting hate. It's a cool job. I love it. It was like my way to work in the industry. So I don't know. I guess with some of the stuff I've been through, I'm not as crudginess or whatever word you want to use.
Well, that market
will
kind of regulate itself, won't it? As
100%,
won't it reach a threshold to where it's like, hey, I'm not getting trips, and then it reaches the amount, and then the guys who are
and that's why there's
at the top of their game are going to get, and they're going to still
a lot come and go. And if you're one of the dudes like, you know, posting every day, like, we done a trip and we caught this many, and like they're doing that to promote and get numbers and all that. But I'll say this: if you're doing that, you better not be lying on the social media. You better be catching them. Because
no way. What guys happens, lie? Guys exaggerate? No way. Not in bass fishing, Darold.
Yes.
Not in bass
some dudes
fishing.
May weigh 10 pounders and they don't have a scale in their boat. Or some dudes may claim we caught 100 and they caught 5. But eventually you get scorned customers out there who'll regulate that for you. So yeah, and I don't wish that on anybody, dude. Like, do it fair, do it right, provide a good service. And there's clearly a large market for it, or all these people wouldn't become, like, our sport is growing. And all these folks want to learn about fishing and all that stuff. So I would say, like, to people that are looking to hire guides, you know, don't believe everything you see on social media. Do a little research. Maybe call the guy, talk to him, get a feel for it, and make sure it's a good fit. Make sure it's going to be someone who will meet your needs. If you're wanting to catch 10 pounders, then you look at some of the guys who do that. If you want to learn electronics, look at some of the guys that are good at that, or maybe fish some tournaments and things like that. So, yeah, it's highly competitive, and like anything in fishing, dude, you see everybody, you know, like, I don't know, we're a very whining industry at times, and I'm not saying I'm above it. Trust me, I've whined plenty about different things that went on, but yeah, lots of guides everywhere you go. So, but that just shows there's a giant market for it. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
what are you showing highlights of?
Your website's kick ass.
That's my wife, man.
I mean, your website, look at this. It like scrolls over. It talks about everything. Guide services, online electronics.
That's
you also gift certificates. What is a gift certificate for?
So that gift certificate, it used to be funny back in the day because it was always, you know, like where I live in Louisiana, a lot of my customers are Southern Louisiana folks. And people know I don't talk like them. So what happens a lot of times is their wives would call to book the trip. And they'd say, Mr. Dow, I'm calling for a charter service on Toledo Bay for my husband and my son. I don't do a great Cajun accent. Crochet does a much better one. But
well, that's because he is. He's literally the sheriff of Deer Park.
Yeah, you cut him and he bleeds crawfish. No, like gift certificates, a lot of the guides do it. Especially with me, last few years, focused so much on our travels and all that stuff and tournament fishing. We sell certificates, like that's what they'll use as a gift. So
okay, so they give it, and then you can call and figure out whether they want what they want to do.
Yeah, like, I have a gift certificate, my wife or my aunt or whoever bought me, and it's cool because a lot of times those are birthday gifts, Christmas gifts, you know, Father's Day, and so they'll bring their son, daughter.
Oh, you have an OnlyFans section on here?
That's new. That's new developed. That's what I'm doing this off season. Huh. It's gonna get weird.
Little members only deal.
Yeah, so my members only has been an electronics group where
okay.
With me being on the road, that was ways for me to do little, little 31 minute or 1 hour videos on different things, electronics and things like that. So that's what that's been. So I had to find a way.
Yeah.
What's that?
Go ahead. You had to find a way.
Well, I had to find a way with me traveling so much, how I could still be able to try to, you know, do some of my guide duties. And so that electronics course was one of those ways. I did it online because I could do it everywhere in the country and it's all relatable. So that's why we did it. Yeah, my wife did this today too. This is all her.
Is this all new?
Yeah, she done it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
You have Ocean Pony t-shirts available now? Like that? Oh, and it says Ocean Pony down the, look at this. Let's zoom that in. That's
like
pretty
that?
cool. You got the silver fox deal in there.
Yeah,
Your
Silver Fox logo.
initials.
She gave me that nickname a long time to my early graying that I did. And then, so like, of course, we always want to honor Toledo Bend. The Ocean Pony was born here. That's what I call, large fish. So we have hats and shirts, say Toledo Bend, Land of the Ocean Pony. That's new. She done that a couple weeks ago. I don't know how she does all this. Still my therapist, still my full-time cook. And then also runs her own business. So she does it all very well. I'm very lucky to have my sweet little angel doing this stuff. That's her there sporting the hat.
That's her right there in the Ocean Pony hat.
Yeah, that was this.
While you live scope a 4-pounder.
Yep.
Or live sight a 4-pounder, right?
Yeah, active. I was
active target. Active target.
I call it.
I get them all
sniping,
confused now.
I just call it sniping, bloodhounding. That way, it don't matter what you're using. Yeah, that was actually this summer, at a secret lake up north where we spent a few days with some friends and fished a little. I fished every day. Everyone else vacationed. I fished every day still because I'm crazy.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no,
thanks for showing the website
about the guide thing. Like I was one of those guys. Like before Jeffries was like, "Hey, I'm retiring, and you're taking over the show." I was like, "Hey, I can do a dink and dunk thing. Like I'd teach you how to do the drop shot, Nico rig, shaky, Demiki."
Dude, you would be shocked.
Yeah, I had so many calls, and then I kind of ended up having, I moved. I had to build a studio. I had to do the show every day, kind of run it, and I would like to.
And that's what's been hard for me being gone so much. I had to put a lot of my actual guide trips on pause. Like you talk about the certificates. There's a lot of people with certificates that we got to schedule some trips, this fall and maybe in the spring once our schedule comes out, and get them on the water and go do that. So, yeah, dude, the guide thing for me was always it got me on the water so I could learn more. But the biggest thing is my biggest dream initially was I want to make a living fishing. I don't want to go teach school every day.
Mm-hmm.
And guiding provided that for me. And a lot of that's because of the lake I live on. It's not me. I live on a special lake, and I was such an all-in dude. Back then I lived an hour away, and I still was on the water like 300 days a year between tournaments and guide and all that. I just love it.
Is Toledo Bend flip? I know. Okay, from an outsider looking in, it seems like it flips back and forth. Sometimes every 4 or 5 years, sometimes every decade, depending on the vegetation, what they're doing with each one, how much pressure it's getting. But it seems like it flips between Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend. I'm getting the sense that Toledo Bend has always been better. Yeah, but wasn't there a time period where like all the grass was gone and it was like kind of hard everyone had to go to the brush to catch them. But now, and a fish in the open where I had the smallest 5 bass limit in the history of the Bassmaster Open. I had an 8-pound 1 ounce 5 bass limit on Toledo Bend. That's the 140th place finish. But it's trending up right now, like big time. Right?
Yeah, it is. And all lakes go up and down, but a lot of times too, we judge like Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn are so good when they're at the top. We judge them too harsh, dude. Like the weights, when people were saying Toledo Bend was a little off or a little down, the tournament weights were still unbelievable. But when we lose our vegetation here, with Toledo being an older lake, a lot of that timber is starting to rot off and fall off and all that. So we don't have tons of cover when we don't have grass, and it's a lake's low. So it does get harder for your weekend average angler that doesn't fish here every day. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It gets a little harder to come up and go find them and have a great time. So, but it's still a special place. But now, like this year, this winter and stuff, they like murdered them. Like we had a new lake record caught, tons of 10-pounders caught this year. It's still, I think they had 50 or 60 in the lunker program. Like we have our own Toledo Bend lunker program. So people often get it confused with the Texas share lunker. That's a Texas thing. We have our own lunker program, which is funded and paid for by local people here that are in the Toledo Bend Lake Association. If you catch a 10-pounder or bigger and weigh it in at one of the stations, you get a free replica. So we still had 50 or 60. It's one of the only places still in the country where you can catch 10-pounders. But it's a tournament lake. So it's not what OH Ivy was 3-4 years ago, where like it felt like it exploded and everybody went nuts. It's a tournament lake. So if you don't spend tons and tons of time here, it can be daunting to break it down. It's a large lake. It can be difficult, but it's still, I don't know. To me, it's like the gem of East Texas, Louisiana. It's where I built my house that I'm probably going to die in on. I love it. It's my favorite place on earth. But
I wouldn't leave that house either.
No, it's pretty. We love it here, dude. This was a dream. I'm watching an eagle fly by right now. It's the
spirit of Rick Klon.
Yeah. No, it's just a beautiful place, dude. And like, even when it's bad, it's still better than a lot of places I just got through traveling around to.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, it's cutting. What's going on with your real underspin deal? You still?
Oh, yeah. The little hammer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still going. Yeah.
All right. If you guys fish underspins, you might want to check that one out.
It's a tail spinner, a line
tail spinner. Tail spinner. That's right. Yeah. Line through tail spinner. Yeah. If you guys fish tail spinners, it's getting that time of the year, late summer.
Yeah, it is.
Fall.
I love it. Fall. Winter,
before it came out, I was a big proponent of it. Have I not borrowed some?
It was exciting to give you a few. Yeah. So we just kind of took what like you do in a lot of fishing baits. I had used some of the tail spinners, other brands and things, and we wanted to put our spin on one. So we made it a little more lifelike shape and paint job. But the key to that little thing, it's called the Little Hammer. V&M Lures makes it. The key to that is the line through portion of it, because
and the consistency of the blade.
And the consistency of the thump of the blade. We upsized the blade, did a few things there. But the big thing with the line through versus not line through is you're taking a bait that's 3/4 an ounce or an ounce. When you hook the fish with a little treble hook, they're about jumping and throwing it. So with the line through, the bait will run up, get out of the way, and your landing percentage goes up. That was a fun bait to help be a part of. Going back to my guiding, is because I've had 5-year-olds in the boat fishing that bait and like catching the pile out of them. I've had dudes, wives, grandmas catching the pile out of them. So it's a fun bait. We try to create it more for bass fishing, but it's cool because it's multi-species. You'll catch stripers and white bass, and I've caught smallmouth on it, so, but I thought it was fun. That was the first bait that I really helped develop and work with and stuff. But it was fun to me because I've had a 5-year-old in my boat like that could cast it and work it back and catch fish on it. So that was fun. It's not super complicated. Fun bait to throw.
I will go out on a limb and say it is the most underrated genre of bait on the market for summer through now through the spawn. Now through the spawn, it's the most underrated genre of bait on the market, and probably the only genre, especially with what's going on now with Demiki rigging and stuff, that has not been exploited yet, and it will explode in the next year and a half.
It will. I've done it a little bit, looking at them, sniping them, throwing out in front of the boat, and it's very effective. It works, but it's cool. It's always been. I don't know why. Like when I started talking about it publicly, I could feel like the lasers coming from the woods from all those old timers. Due to like Toledo Raver, no one wants to talk about
the little George fanatics.
Oh yeah, man. They were like coming out everywhere. Shut your mouth, Gleason. It's a great wintertime bait. And so like a lot of your wintertime, that was like your wintertime fishing is like one of the last unknown horizons that's really broke through. So a lot of people didn't like it. And we named Little Hammer after my dog Rowdy. You saw Rowdy earlier.
He's inside relaxing now, right?
Yeah, if it gets above 72, he can't be outside. He's
doing good.
Older.
I know that Rowdy's been he's had a circuitous route to the current. He's had some ups and downs, but he's
had some ups and downs, but he's rolling. Yeah, we changed his diet and he's rolling. But so I always called him my Little Hammer dog. So when we come out with the bait, for some reason, Little Hammer just stuck. So yeah, Rowdy's rolling, dude. Rowdy's good. Everybody's healthy. Right. Everybody's happy.
Anything else, Daryl, before I let you go? I greatly appreciate, like I said, you jumping on a Monday and talking fishing when it's probably not.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it much more.
I know I got you for your 1 hour.
No, like most of my friends are.
There you go.
They get it well enough.
You see that comment?
Yeah, I do see that.
Local dudes were pissed when they dropped that.
You know what my response to that is, though? It don't matter how you live your life. In this life, there's going to be a local dude pissed off at you no matter what. You could be passing out $100 bills every day at the 4-way stop near Toledo town. You could be giving away free tackle over at Tackle. Like, it don't matter what you do. Some locals mad at you because locals are a lot like pros. We like to whine a lot. That's what we do.
I know, but there's something awesome about just an old school East Texas local. Like there's a special breed of bass angler.
Dude, there's a lot of dudes around here I like looked up to that helped
Oh yeah.
that I looked up to. Wanted to, that nationally people don't even know who they are, but a lot of those dudes helped create this. So no, the rest of the year we'll do some guiding, do those trips, and you know, the next thing I have to do is have some more talks with sponsors and start deciding what we'll fish next year. So
is all
'cause I'm
nine
not
an
going
option?
all nine's an option.
Ooh.
Potentially maybe other tours. Yeah.
And
it's all-
PFL?
perhaps an option. I mean, I haven't, you know, their season's still going, so I don't know as far as other tours if I could even get an invite. I am in a weird spot, dude. I am in limbo. I don't know what.
So
I will get to
here's
do.
your options. Your options are Toyotas. Try to get into the invitationals, which I don't know how hard that is now. I don't know what their deal is on how to get in. So Toyotas, invitationals, all nine.
And I've started in those. Yeah, I started the invitationals.
Yeah,
so I don't
and
know.
you fished the tour before.
Yeah.
Opens. 4 divisions of the BFL.
Yeah. BFL Pro. I got to do something to keep pro in front of my name. I don't want to be former. I want to be pro Darold Gleason. Something
listen,
pro.
we got to run through this. NPFL.
Yeah, that's an option. They're doing some great things there.
You could road trip out west. I'm sure Randy and Rowdy would love that. And you could do like the one bass series. You could do the California Open, the Arizona Open, the US Open, the Toyotas.
There's a lot of dudes
out
over there that love me to. They would beat the crap out of me. They'd love for me to come over and donate to them. So no, I mean, it's a weird spot. I'm trying to, you know,
or you could do Texas Team Trail.
Oh, dude, you can make a fine
and the Brandon Belt
here and fishing team series. There's plenty of them. Now it's highly competitive. Like you get your butt kicked around here a lot too, which help. I think all those butt kickings I took through the years trying to get to where I'm at prepared me for what I'm going through now. You know what I mean?
You could fish the Texas Bass Nation and try to get back to the
Louisiana Bass
series,
Nation's a big deal.
Or Louisiana Bass Nation, sorry.
Yeah.
You can fish Louisiana and Texas. That's what I'm saying. Depending on how they do the rules now.
Yeah, so it's a weird spot to be in. Like I don't know what I'm doing yet, but you know, that's part of my decompression mode I'm going through now. I got to find out what's going to work for all my sponsors, obviously, and work for me and my wife, and what's truly going to keep me passionate and happy. Last couple of years were hard, dude. When you're on the bad end of it a lot, it gets hard, real hard. So we'll look at it all and make some decisions. I ain't going nowhere. Fishing's all I know. It's all I want to do to make a living. And I have a very special group of sponsors, some endemic, some non-endemic. My title sponsor, Foster Fence, non-endemic. And so far, the ones I have spoke with and all that, they're on board with what we do. So very grateful for them. And I'm looking forward to see what we're going to do, dude. Like I'll always in my quiet time look back and think about some of the stuff, but just going forward, got to decide what's best for everybody as a whole, and then, you know, jump in. So it's all.
Does Foster just do? Oh, do they just do like your neck of the woods? I'm looking to put in an electronic gate and some pipe fencing or something out in front of my. I've got 2 acres
they do
across.
all of that. Yeah,
really?
They do all that, but they are mostly commercial.
Oh, okay.
Commercial projects. So like schools, prisons, businesses, and they kind of do it all around. It's a big deal. They're
industrial commercial. It's not like, hey, let's go out to Matt's house and put in 20 feet of fence.
You're too small time, man. Too small
I
time.
know.
But
I could put a prison fence in front. That would intimidate people.
And no one. Well, you should with as big as your podcast is. No, like the owner, Trent, big time fisherman, been a big time supporter of me. I've talked about many times. He like literally changed the trajectory of my career and got me where I'm at. Great people, but most of their employees, salesmen, all the guys hands-on, a lot of them are big time fishermen, love it. They're from around the Houston area where they're based. So if anyone out there has a business and you need some commercial fence projects, security gates.
There's a lot of nefarious characters who hate Foster Fence, I would imagine, because I see a lot of prison fencing.
Lots of, like, you held me in, you punk. No. They do a little of all of it, but the biggest thing was I had a personal relationship with Trent, and dude, he took a shot and gave me this opportunity to do all these great things. So hopefully we'll get to work together going soon. I know it's hard to say this stuff with how the end of the season turned out. I left in July. I left my house around July 1st, 38th in points, talking about making the Bassmaster Classic. And I drug my sorry butt home in September. on the outs. So a lot happens. So take a little time, figure it all out, see what we're going to do. I'm not done. I know in my heart I'm not done with fishing, and I'm probably not done with the elites. I feel like even still, people may laugh, but I still feel like I belong. I feel like I'm good enough to do it. There's clearly some spots in my game I got to work on and get better at. But I know in my heart that I can do it. And so, however we move forward, I am very grateful for the journey that we had. I'm very grateful to all the bass staff, media folks. Like, dude, they made me and my wife feel at home. It was a very special run. So, but that even goes into, like you mentioned, I fished the, it was the FLW Pro Circuit, then bought by MLF. All those folks too. They've always just treated us wonderful.
Just another chapter. You have a lot of chapters.
I do have some chapters. This is a weird one though, because I don't know what's next. But that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes what's next could be the best thing. So.
All right. Well, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the time. And we always text and stay in touch anyway. But enjoy the off time. When you know what you're going to do, let me know. Maybe you can come on BTL to announce your next step.
Yeah, anytime there's something you want to talk about, holler at me. I got some free time. It's a good way to spend the time on here. I always appreciate your fans, dude. A lot of supportive folks. You have a very tight-knit, loyal group that follows your show and follows you. So awesome, I'm always grateful to be a part of it. It is, dude. Like, I've been getting some DMs and stuff lately that people will never understand what those mean when you get those little words of encouragement. Even throughout my process, the highs and the lows. It's big stuff, dude. You get that too. You have a bad open and you see some of those DMs are like, hanging there, bud. Like, it means a lot, dude. So
I appreciate a lot of them that I don't answer or see, but yeah, it does. It means a lot when someone's like, hey, dude, you'll get it. You'll get them next time. Don't worry about it.
So, this is all I'm doing fishing for the week, though. I'm going immediately back to golf. Go
golf or day drink. Get those white claws flowing.
Yeah, there's no law when you're down with the claw.
Darold.
Thanks, dude.
All right, that was Darold Gleason. That's kind of a tough interview there because obviously he doesn't want to be out of the Elite Series, but he is. But the fact that he's able to talk about it, put it into perspective, I think is big. To be able to talk about it and give a perspective of what it's like on the day-to-day. Not everybody is a KVD. Not everybody is a Brandon Polinick, and you have to have the entire pool that are working together, that are making things work for this whole industry to work. And it's good guys like Darold who make it work. So we're going to take our final break. When we come back, talk about what we have going for the rest of the week. BTL on a holiday Monday, September 4th. We'll be back right after.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves the house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Thanks for everyone sticking around. Great show. Thank you for Darold Gleason being so candid and open during the show about the realities of being a professional bass fisherman on the Bassmaster Elite Series. That's all we got for today. I gotta go do a little weed eating, a little yard maintenance work before it gets too hot. So thanks. That's all we got. We will see everybody tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. Later.